Welcome! It's Rucks Balls and Oval Balls. That's right, it's the fans' favourite rugby podcast back once again with some of the fans' favourite rugby podcast hosts. Yes, it's me, Dave, joined as ever by Rory. Rory, say hello to the listener.
Hello listener, how are you?
Well, I speak on behalf of all listeners and say, they're fine, Rory. Thank you for asking. Well, Rory, I feel like we just have to seamlessly canter straight into the banter section and talk about our big weekend.
Big day out.
Our big day out in Bath.
Yes.
It was a joyous old day. A joyous old day for the Armob clan.
A great day with many waters, top hydration, peak nutrition, and lots of family-friendly and completely expletive-free banter and chat.
Absolutely. There's family-friendly was definitely the way to describe it, and hydrated, definitely a way to describe it. All we can say is thank you very much to the establishments at the Boater, the Saracen's Head, Ludo, Boater again, Bath, the Wreck itself, the Huntsman, and any other place.
The Boston Tea Cafe for a lovely breakfast.
Really set us up for the day and provided us some much-needed absorption in calories. Needless to say, I got a right telling off at Man v Fat yesterday.
Not a good week for the waistline.
Not a good week for the waistline, but it was a joyous day. Fun had by all. We spent around 3 hours playing one game of naming rugby players' names with our friends from university who are equally noisy to us. And maybe we'll bring the name game to the channel. Who knows? I don't know how it'll work, but watch this space. But yeah, Rory, I only saw you the other day, so it feels odd to ask how you are, because I literally saw you a couple of days ago. So anything to report since we saw each other? How was the hang?
I would say I wasn't too bad Sunday. I wasn't entirely in love with my train journey back through to Essex, but all told, I can't really have too many complaints, as all maladies was very self-inflicted. But no, a cracking day out. Bath's a great town for it, as we know, and I've never suggested otherwise on this podcast.
Thank you to all the people on the various channels who recommended locations for us to go. It did come in very handy.
Yes, we utilised a lot of those.
We did indeed, and it was, and most of them turned out to be pretty good tips. So thank you very much for that. Yes, I must say my hang's been probably not so fun because I've been incredibly busy. Which, when you just want to sit down and relax, it's...
no rest for the wicked, David.
No rest for the wicked, indeed. So, as you say, cannot complain too much. It is entirely self-inflicted. So I'm not expecting any sympathy, and I can report no sympathy has been given in the David home. Rightfully so. But Rory, we were there for a good reason. But before we get on to that good reason, has there been any rugby news in the world that's been pottering around in your rugby hemisphere of news that you wish to bring to the podcast to discuss?
Well, not a week of lots of news stories, but one that really caught my eye was reported over the last day or so. Prem Rugby, bit of welcome. Good news or good indicators, set to record revenues of more than 200 million.
What's that in comparison to years before, or is that not?
It's a rise in revenues, but it's a 44% reduction in collective underlying losses.
That sounds like a positive news story.
Well, it sounds significant, doesn't it? Out of the woods. Debt still stands at in and around 100 million, most of which is owed to the government for COVID loans.
Thank you, government.
Thank you to our benevolent government. Please cut the debt. But I think the key facets to it, right? It's rising revenues and falling losses.
Yeah.
Which both good indicators of the growth of the league. And the threat of R3 looming. It's good news on the strength of the league.
Yeah.
So for anyone thinking of jumping ship, it now doesn't seem like the right time when all indicators are pointing in the right direction.
Maybe the ship isn't sinking after all.
No, I think what you're seeing, I mean, some of the re-signings, highlighted this report. Antoine Dupont's committed himself to Toulouse. Several Saints players have committed themselves
You're welcome.
to club rugby. There's been no real announcements of players indicating or threatening to join R360 from the Prem. There's been some rumblings about some NRL players, but
That's fine. They can have them.
they can have them.
Like George signed on again. Cunningham-South signed on again. Good news.
I think it's good news. Look, I think a pinch of salt is the league's not out of the woods. It's not recording profits. It's not. It's not
Highly
reached
prosperous
that
business
point.
model.
No, but it's going in that direction, and I think all you can ask for at the moment.
Absolutely.
So I think we should celebrate it.
Woohoo! I'm in celebration mode. Thanks, Rory. That's good news. And to everyone who was at Man v Fat last night, where there was a relatively heated discussion around some people suggesting maybe the Welsh region should come save the Prem, and I was saying, why do we need to save the Welsh regions? The Prem's, right direction. And some of them said, no, it's not. It's going the wrong way. Here's the good news story for you that I told you we were on the brink of. It is on an uptick. We are turning the corner, and I personally feel Prem Rugby is on an upward trajectory. Yes, it's from an upward trajectory from a very low trough, but that is an upward trajectory and none the same, Rory.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think there's a good debate around the Welsh regions joining Prem for certainly for Welsh regions. I can entirely see why they are keen to that idea. I don't think there's much in it realistically for the Prem at this point in time. I don't think that they would gain much at this point from the inclusion the Welsh regions, but there's a good conversation to be had there, and I'm sure those conversations are ongoing. But at this point in time, I think Prem Rugby consolidates its position, hopefully adds a couple more teams to the tournament and expands back up to 12. I think sounds about right to me, at least at this point. And then
that's the path.
Go from there.
That's the path we're on. I feel like we're getting there slowly. Not going to say surely, because everything is often pulled away from us, but feel we're heading in that direction. But that is generally newsworthy wise. That's what I'm aware of. We'll touch on the England team once we've done the assessment of the England game that took place this weekend. But I reckon let's just canter straight into the England A game that we were present and correct for at the Rec. We can give our full-bodied, emotional reactions to that game live from the ground.
Yeah.
And I tried my best to be as optimistic and energetic in my introduction to this section because, let's face it, Rory, it was a bit of a damp occasion, should we say.
Well,
although the weather was lovely.
Yeah, let's do positives. Great day for it. Mm-hmm. Great day for it in Bath.
Lovely day.
Pretty much full house, close to.
Well attended.
Very well attended. Nicely remembrance at start.
Yep.
Thought the hacker was good. And I'm not a great advocate for hackers constantly, but I thought it was good, and it was it went all out of the atmosphere, and I enjoyed all of that. And then, into the game itself, we have to be to the New Zealand 15, who turned up clearly more coherent, playing the much
clinical,
well rugby, let's say, looking like a team that has played games together, which it is, fairness.
Yeah.
The England, well, how do you sum it up?
Disjointed?
Disjointed, I think, would be the fair assessment. Some approach play, particularly in the first half, but the ball not sticking at the right moments to take advantage of it. There were opportunities for the likes of Angus Hall, Blamire, Ajomo. There were chances to capitalise on pressure and opportunity, but if we're being completely frank, the core basics let the England side down. The line out was, let's be honest, a disaster. The scrum wasn't brilliant, and the attacking play just looked a bit pedestrian. Yeah.
And the handling skills, not necessarily where you'd expect it to be. Lots of handling errors. Obviously, a lot of misreads, miscalls. There was, I think, 3 or 4 times there was there might have been a call for the ball at the back, but there was no one there to receive the ball out the back.
Yeah, lots of out the back passes that hit the ground.
Yeah, it wasn't was not the spectacle that we had anticipated. Although, as we commented several times from the terraces, what a lovely vertical leap Noah Calori's got.
Noah Calori, to be honest, in person, that guy goes up and down like nobody's business.
He does.
Like in the draws. Believe the hype when it comes to Noah Calori's jumping. And actually, start hyping Ollie Hassell-Collins jumping as well, because his high ball work was excellent. Yeah. He wrote his hand. I would say of the England A team, not too many coloured themselves in glory, a sense of putting their hand up for selection in the senior squad. I thought
maybe only two names for me.
Ollie Hassell-Collins was one, and I would probably go so far as to say Tom Pearson was the other.
Yeah, the only two for me as well.
Yeah, outside of a difficult for the others, but I thought Pearson and Hassell-Collins particularly looked good. Players there that, from a perspective, I really want to see Afo for Sogbon and Charlie Atkinson put their hands up to be given an opportunity just to at least get into the senior squad. If we're being frank, Afo didn't have a great time at scrum, and Charlie had a mixed afternoon. Some nice touches, but some ropey errors as well. I think for the Saints stable, friend of the pod, friend of the show, Archie McParland probably didn't put his best foot forward.
Box kicking.
On this occasion.
His box kicking did not match his club mate at Mitchell the week before. It was not as pinpoint. And distribution may have contributed to some of the handling errors. I think perhaps not his game.
I think him and suffered from, if we're being frank, the physicality of the All Blacks 15 compared to the England A up front. It certainly was. It was gravy, and actually in the centres as well. Max just got very little change out of the likes of David Havili, who let's be honest, seasoned All Black David Havili, and looked a cut above really on the day. So a good learning experience for some of those players who will go away from this knowing that there are some glaring areas that they're going to need to improve if they have higher ambitions. From the All Blacks perspective, I've got to say I was impressed, particularly by some of their physicality. I mean, Dalton is the monster that he's looked on the telly. David Havili, just brilliant. I mean, watching that team and going, how good are their centres if he's not getting selected?
Yeah. And then you've got Sevu Reece on the wing.
Sevu Reece on the wing, who is wheels. Yeah. Wheels. Obviously suffering the All policy of not selecting wingers once he gets past the age of about 25.
Yeah.
And some good players that I hadn't really seen much of before. Fahaki, who I believe got player of the match at fullback.
Yeah.
Was good, very exciting. Carl Preston, the 9, I thought was very good. Jacom, that controlled things extremely well. But yeah, look, the All 15 were by some factor of multiple the better team on the day.
Yeah, the parts were greater than the sum of England's parts. I think it's as simple as
absolutely. Yeah, that's the long and short of it. If we have to be, we're an honest pod. We're known for being an honest pod, and England A were pretty disappointing. All things. Yeah. I would expect a few changes before they go out to play Spain.
I suppose it will be.
And I think more than a few will have fallen down the pecking order of Steve Borthwick's thinking in the senior squad. But that's the rare types of games. You're in effectively a possibles team, and it's not for all of them.
Yeah, I wonder, and it's something that, certainly I'm guilty of, but we're guilty of, is we're all very excited about the development journey and the under-20 pathway. Our team were noticeably more junior, let's say, to the All Black side. Perhaps we're just getting a bit carried away with the leaning into the youngsters coming through, because I think that may have been the difference. If we kind of had a few more of the more seasoned Prem players who may be more at that physical level in that particular game, we might have seen a different performance, because I think there was definitely a focus on tomorrow rather than maybe looking at the form players in the Prem, whether they may be still, they may well be over 30 years old, but if you're English and you're playing well, maybe they still deserve an opportunity to be looked at the England A over players who maybe haven't played much Prem rugby, but because they've come through the pathway recently, They're obviously on the radar, so let's get them in the England A squad. Maybe there still needs to be a bit of a balance struck between what that England A squad's about. And I said, knowing I full well have championed for it to be basically packed full of ex-under-21 players, so I know it's me being hypocritical, but we're an honest pod, Rory.
Absolutely. Honesty is the best policy. And look, I think there's some players who came on off the bench, really, to be honest, after the horse had bolted, who did impress. I thought Billy Stella came on and really did quite...
Yes.
He really outshone himself, but I thought he was very, very physical when he came on. I thought Kingerfield actually did pretty well when he came on. He's got a massive boot. I think that was that did help put a bit of a handle on things for a while. I suspect like Marzi White might be given a shot to start.
Yeah, more games.
Physical edge in the backs.
Radwan maybe as well.
Yeah. I think you're right. You're like, we probably almost more than anyone are guilty of viewing things from fishbowl that is English rugby. Yeah. Watching the Prem, watching the under-20s, watching the senior side. And I think particularly when you're watching the Prem, you can probably be guilty of overestimating the relative strength compared to other nations that you're less familiar with. And that was probably on show a bit on this one, where players that we see perform week in, week out in the Prem and look very good, actually in the against not the best players from New Zealand, but a very strong set of players from New Zealand, actually were exposed to it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think maybe a bit of a reality check for English rugby, and maybe a much needed one, perhaps, because it's good to surrounded, Rory. Because we're an honest pod. We're an honest pod here.
We're an honest pod.
We're an honest pod. And honestly, let's just swiftly on. Let's not dwell too much longer on that disappointing fixture. Let's dwell a little longer on the England journey through to the fixture that took place at the Allianz Stadium in Twickenham, England versus Fiji, with a bit more positivity than the game we just spoke about, Rory. What did you take away from that game? I must admit, it's all a little bit foggy to me. I've not had a chance to watch it back in full. I've seen some highlights, but let me know your thoughts.
Well, removing the fog from my brain, I think a couple of things struck me. England are clearly on a bit of a journey here of implementing the attacking ideas of Lee Blackett. There was a very good article this week looking at failed England attacks that failed for various reasons. Broadly speaking, comes down to timing and familiarity. But what was key, and I think what was actually on show in the Fiji game, was they're moving in the right direction in terms of taking advantage of opportunities, but they're not quite clicking entirely there yet. And actually, when given a physical challenge of the likes of a team like Fiji, which for all of their flair and ability and how marvellous they are with the ball in hand, they are, first and foremost, a physical, frightening team. And they showed that.
Tacklers.
Big tacklers. Look, Tuasova and Ravuvu, as a centre partnership, have the ability to do the impossible with the ball in hand. But they also have the ability to rearrange your organs when they tackle you. And they showed that at the weekend.
Multiple times.
And, look, I love Fiji for that, because they can go both ways with it. And the England team probably suffered from a lack of physicality. And I wonder if there's an extent to which, obviously injuries factored into it a bit, but I wonder if there's an extent to the selection choices that Borthwick made here were to dip his toe in the water a little bit and just see how certain combinations stand up physically. To test like this, because to a certain extent you can use this as a proving ground for how you match up to a team like, say, South Africa.
Physically wise,
yeah. And I wonder whether he's getting a bit of a sense as to what players can and can't hack it on those physical stakes. And look, they came out on top in the end, but not without their challenges. The challenges.
It wasn't a walkover.
No, the final scoreline betrays the reality of this game, which was Fiji gave a really stern test here. If it wasn't for a really unfortunate knock-on from Kuravoli after what was a breathtakingly exciting attacking move, where he just spills it as he's tackled over the line, this goes from being a 20-point swing, a 20-point game, to something much more nail biting. I think that would probably have left it something like 26-25 had that try been taken. And at that point, the jitters would have been going around the stadium.
Yeah.
If they weren't already. So, Fiji come out of this with chins firmly up because they gave England a real stern test here.
Yeah.
Cunningham in the number 2 shirt for Fiji scored 2 really good tries, one from a rolling maul and one off a really, really good move after that at the front of the line out after they'd made England think twice about the maul. And then taking advantage of a bit of short side stuff.
It shows they've got that side of their game too. So they're almost like a triple threat now. They've got the attacking flair. It's the attacking flair. They've got this physicality in defence, and they've also got some really nice set piece planning, orchestrated moves, training park moves. Fiji, fair play. Those 2 tries were magnificent.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the Caleb Muntz try is equally good for different reasons because it's just such good, intricate play.
Yeah.
Particularly from someone who I think on a different day could have been player of the match, Sovakula, the 6, who's got, he looks about 400 years old because he's got grey hair and he's, he looks like your Fijian granddad, but was by any stretch the best forward on the day, I think.
Yeah, just everywhere.
Everywhere, ball in hand, ruck threat. Yeah, I thought he was fantastic.
An absolute
standout. On the England side of things,
should we focus in on a couple of in the selection for this game? There was a few people who were brought in. So Cunningham-South at 8. How do you feel he fared, staking his claim for the 8 shirt?
I think Cunningham-South laid down a good marker. Look, the other thing. He only played 53 minutes, right? So there is still this question in the air around how much of a test match can Cunningham-South physically bear at an effective level. But for the 50 minutes he was on the pitch, I thought he was excellent.
Left it all
really
out
athletic. Yeah, really athletic, really powerful. Making sort of half breaks, making yards, cutting good lines. I think he's showing that he's got at least the capability to provide a good option at 8 there. I don't think he's overhauled Ben Earl to start there yet, but he's certainly staking a claim.
No, I think he's certainly showing that he has it in his wherewithal to offer something different to what Ben Earl offers in the 8 shirt and offer it effectively in a different way. I think that's what he's done. Yeah, and he does offer that additional line-out jumper, which in this modern day and age where line-outs often go to pot, can be worth a lot to a team.
I think he did the most lineouts of any England player, which, given Chesham's there presumably calling it, is pretty impressive.
Yeah, absolutely.
Look, I think Cunningham-South staked a claim. I thought Finn Smith was very good. I think he made 15 tackles out of 15.
He always just defensively. I know your passion for George Ford. I know a lot of listeners' passion for Marcus Smith's flair. But one thing for certain that is nearly always overlooked is how good Finn Smith is in defence. He tackles like no other fly half in English rugby at the moment. Perhaps Owen Farrell may disagree, but I still think Finn Smith's probably, he's had to go to tackling school a bit fewer than maybe Owen Farrell has. But the way he commits to tackles, completes tackles, he has the ability to make a dominant tackle. And when you're fronting up to that Fijian back line, very, very good. I've seen comments and stuff across the various social medias about how a lot of the attacking moves were failing because Finn Smith couldn't get the ball out quick enough. You tried doing that when you got Calavetti, Revuvu and Tuasova charging at you.
Yeah. Fiji did a really good job of blitzing.
Yeah.
And there's two sides to that, right? You have to solve for that as an international fly half. You do have to solve for that. But some days you're just going to come up against a defence that reads it. And Fiji did. And they put in some massive hits, not just on him, on Marcus Smith as well, on Fraser Dingwall. They put real pressure on the ball handlers in that back line for England. So, it was a tough environment to get an attack going. There's definitely scope for improvement there. But then at the same time, he sets up Feo Bosa with a kick pass that's becoming a bit of a a go-to weapon for him and is looking really effective. You know, Marcus Smith put Arundel away for, I mean, I don't know what you compare him to. The Roadrunner? You know, it's just...
Yeah, on Henry Arundel. Okay, well, I remember watching this live. This is one of the things that has cleared through the fog. I still can't decide whether he is just that quick or whether Revuvu just didn't think anyone was going to be there and was trying to catch a breath. It could be either or, but he's obviously very quick because
Revuvu did 70 minutes on the pitch. That's
very true.
That's got to be fair to say. But so you know, the slight caveat is Revuvu might be moving a bit slower than he would otherwise do. But either way, Arendel's got to make up 10 meters on him, and Revuvu is a outside centre / winger.
Yeah. Well, if you watch,
no slap.
I remember watching it back. You see Marcus Smith's reaction to when he kicked it. He's telling someone to go cover him at fullback because he's like, oh, they're going to gather this and they're going to kick it away, so make sure you're there to field it. He wasn't expecting Arundel to chase that and score a try. So the fact that he did probably does give an indication that, yeah, Revuvu's probably a bit slower than he may have normally been maybe in the first minute. But yeah, Arundel, he's certainly good at announcing himself in big moments.
He picks his moments, doesn't he?
Yeah.
He's got, I think him and Henry Pollock just have this knack of doing the big flashy thing at the moment when all eyes are on them, and that's not a bad thing.
No, absolutely. It's certainly not bad for the old image. And fair play for England rugby to cashing in on that.
Yeah, no, 100%. And look, it's good to see him back out there for England because, you know, where he may or may not be the finished article and where he sits in the pecking order, there's something about watching someone with raw speed like that go at full tilt that is just fun.
Yeah, and you cannot argue on form on the Prem. He deserves the shot, I'd say, because he's definitely one of the form wingers in the league.
Easily.
And I know at the start of the season, I certainly was saying he shouldn't be parachuted straight back into that England squad. Fair play to him for really earning that opportunity again and taking it. Because we're an honest pod, Rory, and we're happy to accept when we've said something and we've been proven wrong. Because we're an honest pod.
Yeah. We don't lie.
We don't lie here. And if we do get found out to be retrospectively lying, it was because we were wrong. It's not because we were lying. We're happy to be wrong.
Misspoke, or you quoted us out of context.
Yeah, all that. Anyone else? Anyone else for you? How about Marcus Smith at 15?
I think he had a really good showing. Fiji's a good team for Marcus Smith to be at 15 against because they're not going to pepper you with loads of high balls and loads of tactical kicking. Caleb Munster's a really good fly half, and I've no doubt that he's capable of putting teams under kick pressure, but that's just not the way they play the game generally. They do look to run it. They do lots of very clever short kicks and little chips over the offensive line that caused England problems, but you're just not going to be as exposed as you would against, say, France or Argentina with those high balls. So it's a good occasion for him to do it and prove that he's still got the ability to fill in there effectively. Setting Arundel up for a try is going to do him no disservice whatsoever. What I did think watching him was, for as much as I love George Ford and for how good Finn Smith's defence is, when you see Marcus Smith's running game in action and his ability to put defences under pressure with that turn of speed he's got, you do at the very least have to stop and think, how are we not starting him at 10? Because he can do something different to almost any other 10 I can think of with that step and go that he's got. So, in some ways it's thrown up more questions than answers for me, but, I'm not paid Steve Borthwick's salary, so I don't have to make the decisions. And, in a lot of ways, I just think the fact that you could go Marcus, Finn or George Ford, and there's a good argument as why you could do all three of them. They are all operating at a world-class standard. Just brilliant, isn't it?
It's brilliant. I think we spoke about before. I think superpowers at international rugby. I think we've got 3 fly halves with 3 very distinct superpowers, and that's what makes it so difficult to decide which one do you put your hat on, because they're all very distinctly different, and they're all distinctly brilliant in their own ways. So it's again happy to be paid Steve Borthwick's salary, but whilst I'm not being paid that, I'm happy to sit in my chair and just say good luck on that one, Steve. I don't know how you get this one right. perhaps a nice segue into the team selected for the weekend, which was announced today, Rory, as we record the podcast on the Tuesday. And
Northwick's gone early again.
It's gone early.
And nice to be able to talk about this live because we often just have to speculate a lot of the time. So my initial thoughts on this are, given the injuries, Chesham not available, Freeman not available, Daly on his first week back in full training.
Yeah.
I'm pretty happy with it. I think it's an interesting selection to go back to the POM squad.
Yeah, that was my first reaction.
But given in the 3 tests against New Zealand last year, all 3 England were ahead going into the last 20 minutes and then weren't able to close the game out. I can see the thinking, and I think it makes sense. The question is whether that starting lineup is good enough to build a lead come 60 minutes on the clock.
Yeah, I think that's a very interesting point. And perhaps that game against Australia was a test to see whether that was something that would be effective. And obviously, I feel it passed that test, so maybe that's why Borthwick's let's roll that dice again. Obviously, as a Saints fan, I'm pretty happy with Alex Coles getting the start. Unfortunately for Chesham to be injured, but I do think Coles will be a more than suitable replacement and able to offer a lot around the park. He's incredibly mobile, great at the line out, great tackler, bit of a jackal threat. So I don't feel like we missed too much losing Chesham with Coles being the replacement. We've gone back to the back row of Holt and Pepper, Underhill and Guy Pepper with Ben Earl at 8. So we've gone back to that hyper-mobile back row, which will be interesting how that fares against New Zealand. Perhaps the big headline, Mitchell carrying on 9, but George Ford being reintroduced at 10 and Finn Smith being dropped from the 23 entirely, which for me is an absolute madness because I feel like his defensive game would be ideal to have maybe on the bench here to come along with the POM squad maybe.
Here's where I think it makes sense. Well, there's a couple of reasons. Partly Marcus Smith's versatility. What I think makes sense is we're obviously going to be trying to leverage the high ball again. We've got Roebuck, Verbose, and Stewart in there. Shame not to have Tommy Freeman, who my gut feel would be he'd be running at 13 this week if he was fit. But they're obviously keen to exploit New Zealand under the high ball, which I think makes sense. That's not an area of absolute strength for them at the moment.
No, it's not.
So I think that makes sense for them to do. He's also let's make no bones about it, George Ford is the best passing selector we have. And given the opportunities are going to be possibly a bit few and far between, choosing the right option when it presents itself is something you can almost put the house on. George Ford do it.
And he is probably the best game manager out of the 3 at the moment still as well.
Yeah, but then also with Marcus Smith on the bench, you've got the ability to really change the pace of the game. If you need to bump the tempo right up, Marcus Smith is the option over Finn Smith, isn't he? And covering 15 is a nice thing to be able to have as well. But if you're going, what we actually need to do is we need to raise the tempo in the last 20 minutes to try and run New Zealand off the park, kids, if we're going to win this and get the most out of the power game in that forward pack. Marcus Smith's the man you bring on for me.
Well, you're entitled to your opinion, Rory. Finn Smith for me all day, every day. But perhaps I'm biased. You might see that behind my head and might give an indication as to. Do you have a headache, Rory? Suggesting maybe I'm a bit one-eyed. Don't know where that's coming from. I just don't think he's not shown anything to suggest any reason why he would not be suitable to play in this game.
I think Finn Smith would be able to play in this game. But I think given they've obviously gone, we're playing George Ford is our top 10 for the biggest tests. That's obviously the decision they've made. So if you're then going off the basis of that as a starting point, Marcus Smith is the game changer between Finn Smith and him compared to George Ford. That's the logic for me.
Okay, Rory. And then obviously in the centres, they carry on with Dingwall and Lawrence, although I think I agree with you that they probably would have gone Freeman at 13 in this game had he been fit.
And presumably only Ben Earl covering the centres.
Yes, presumably so. Because, on the wings, it's Feyenoord, Roebuck, as mentioned, and Stewart at 15. And then the bench, as you say, the POM squad, again, getting ready to be unloaded. And then just Spencer and Smith as back cover.
Smith brackets M.
Yeah, the wrong Smith.
Yeah, I'm pretty happy with this as a squad. I've seen some people suggest feeling a little uninspired by it. But I think given the balance of who's available, that squad makes sense to me. I think there's a clear plan. There's been a clear plan for this autumn internationals that squad speaks to in my mind. I think Hoult and Pepper as the flankers will give the New Zealand back row a real test, given you're probably going to be playing Ardi Surveyor and Wallace Atiti.
Yeah.
You probably do need the mobility. You need at least one of them to be a line-out option. That's Guy Pepper. And you've got the raw pace of Ben Earl there as well. For me, I think that's just about the right call.
Yeah. Well, we'll do our predictions at the end, Rory. So save that one for the end, but that would have been the logical next question. Obviously, we'll tune in this weekend, see how that fares, and we'll discuss it all next week when it comes to England. Let's shut the door of the England conversation for now, Rory.
Yeah, should we run through some of the other results? Some interesting games that we saw. We saw a lot of these in parts.
Yeah, some games more so than others. I feel like the most logical game to go to is the big one. France, South Africa.
Yeah.
And
what a game.
Fantastic game of rugby.
If you have the box persuasion. France obviously coming out the traps quickly with Penaud scoring the first two tries of the day, either side to, I'm going to apologise for butchering the pronunciation name, but Umgonazulu.
Sasha Feinberg and Gomazulu, yeah.
That's the one. But France going in, I think they were 17-13 up at half time, memory serves.
Yeah, that foggy memory.
Yeah, but at the time looking in a good position. I mean, obviously up, but looking strong in the game. You know, they looked powerful, but they weren't necessarily taking all their chances. Outside of Penaud's two really good scores, I thought they were a bit profligate with the ball. Unusually for them. Obviously, you had the Lou Diaga red card, which I guess we'll come on to.
Yes, we'll talk about that.
But yeah, at half time, I think we there was a lot of South Africans in the pub we were in.
Yeah, well, I remember feeling a bit smug.
Yeah, we were a bit full of ourselves and full of beer, and they were looking worried, I would say. I think that'd be a function.
Absolutely. It was definitely a sense of, this isn't going as planned at half time. Perhaps driven by the Lou Diaga situation. Should we touch on that particular talking point?
Is it a full red card?
It's an interesting one. It's an interesting debate. The most annoying thing is I've seen lots of South African fans, because they've got the fact of that, let's face it, they won the game comfortably at the end. They're coming out saying, it was a red card, and with 14 players genuinely gone, we still do what we can and still smashed you, France. I have a feeling if they lost the game, they would all be up in arms saying it wasn't a full red card. Considering it was Ramos, wasn't it, who is the tackled party?
Yeah.
Considering he was basically on his knees, and there was one wrapping arm, albeit there was a bit of a tucked shoulder.
He did tuck his shoulder, let's be honest. He tucked his shoulder, and I'm not saying he was aiming for Ramos's head, but he was going for a tucked arm shot. He was going for a tucked arm shot. Yeah. So, and from a referee's point of view, if you've tucked your arm, you've started from a position of illegality. Yeah. So therefore, mitigation is not applied. So the fact of the tackle height, the drop in height, that's not applied because from their perspective of, and this was exacerbated by them showing one angle in particular, which may or may not have something to do with French TV directors. There's been speculation in the past about them. But if you start from that point, then it's a red card. The reverse angle obviously shows he's wrapped with his other arm. Now, a couple of points on this, I suppose. I think he's gone for the big shot. I don't think he's gone for, I'm gonna absolutely take Tomo Ramos's head off, which not out of the realms of possibility, but I don't think that's what he's trying to do.
Yeah.
I do remember a few years ago, and you'll remember this as well, David, I'm sure, when England recorded one of their rare-ish victories against the Box, and Owen Farrell produced a similar type of tackle on Andre Esterhazen, I believe it was, where he wrapped with one arm, but maybe went in with a tucked arm on the other.
Yeah.
Now, from memory, now correct me if I'm wrong, I believe the South Africans were feeling pretty aggrieved about that being a completely illegal tackle at the time, and it should have been a penalty to South Africa.
Right, yeah.
So on that basis, should they not now agree that the referee's call was right on Lou Diaga?
Are you suggesting South African fans are hypocrites?
I'm just asking questions, David. This is an honest pod. I'm just asking questions.
An honest pod with some honest questions. Yeah, if you are a South African fan, please let us know, because it's an interesting one.
I'd love to know. From your perspective, is it illegal or is it not? Now, what you can say as South African fairness is if Owen Farrell's wasn't a penalty, then this wasn't either. I accept that.
Yeah.
But what you can't do is still be upset about Farrell's tackle and not think this is a red card.
Agreed.
Those are your options.
Those are your options, South African fans. Let us know. Let us know what you think. We'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, absolutely. But I guess moving on to the more important elements of this from a South African perspective, they did come away. Second half. Oh my God.
Yeah. They
were irrepressible, weren't they? Andre Esterhazen scoring a try from the back of the maul. I know that there's all kinds of debates around hybrid players and have been ever since Eddie Jones mooted it with the likes of Jack Noel some years ago.
Yeah.
Rassie Erasmus is taking that to different levels, and he's getting proper change out of
a physical freak that is Andre Esterhazen. It's quite lucky that there. Yeah.
Oh, gotcha. But to have done it to the point where he can control the ball at the back of a maul and score against that France pack, that is taking hybrid players to planes hitherto unseen. So fair play to Rassie Erasmus on that, because that is phenomenal. Grant Williams with the little step and go off the back of a maul and sending everyone the wrong way. Lovely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then just capping it off with Sasha's just lovely arcing run to finish the game off for South Africa when, it had gotten away from France at that point and their heads had gone. Let's be honest, they'd not thrown the towel in, but I think they just lost the battle of wills in the end on the day.
Yeah, I think perhaps that might have been a result of... I imagine they probably were quite emotionally charged going into this game, and seeing their grasp on this game fading with quite some speed in that second half. I'm not surprised heads dropped and levels dropped with that as a result of it. And I think that's what we saw, certainly as the second half came to a close.
That's it. I think that's ultimately it. Their heads dropped pretty early. They lost belief, and South Africa just kept the foot on the throat, as is their wont.
Yeah.
I thought once Steenkamp came on after 30 minutes for Venter in a brutal move from Rassie, again, another brutal move. Then Montagna, the France tie-head, and then Aldegheri later on really struggled at scrum time, and that just put that gave them real problems.
I have seen a little bit of questioning of Gaultier about his selections at prop, because Montagna is 22-year-old prop who was playing Pro D2 last year, so hasn't been tested at the test level. Dossio is not even the starting prop at his club, who I cannot remember off the top of my head. It's just, I think there's been some questions asked about why they were the ones selected to go up against the infamously strong South African pack, and I imagine the availability may have been part of that.
Yeah, possibly, but Aldegheri is a scrummaging prop of the old school. He's not necessarily going to offer you huge amounts around the field outside of hitting his rucks and making his tackles. But I think Jean-Baptiste Gross is more impactful around the field, and we've seen in the Six Nations how good a player he is. I think if you're down on, obviously missing Weenie Antonio in particular there,
Yeah.
I would have started the two senior props personally.
Yeah, if it's just for that fixture, it just feels like it's an odd gamble when you look at it.
Yeah, and, they're also missing Bai.
Yeah.
I think they're missing, both Bais, in fact. It's it looked an odd selection, but I don't watch enough top 14 or Pro Dida to be able to tell you
Yeah.
how this sort of falls in terms of the form charts at the moment. If and that's again, we're an honest pod.
We're
I'm
an
going to
honest
be honest.
pod. We'll have
I
to
don't.
talk to our friends at Ross Beefs who do some excellent
We need
stuff
to hear
in
from the
French
Ross
rugby.
beefs as to whether this was a good selection or not. What I would say is, felt to me that they were down a bit of physicality in the back line, really missing Dante, I feel, in
Yeah.
that centre partnership. Who wouldn't? But it just feels like the back three is incredibly fast, incredibly skillful, but it's not physical.
Yeah.
Fiku's an amazing defender and defensive organizer, and he's not a small bloke by any stretch, but he's not massive, brassy.
Didn't have his
I
best
don't
game.
think didn't have his best game for my money, as Fiku didn't really. I think not starting Luku was a mistake.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
As good as Garrick is, but Luku, for my money, is the second best nine in France, arguably in the world,
Yeah.
with the way I've seen him for Bordeaux. So that feels like a mistake to me.
I feel like
I think there's right to be questions of France.
yeah, and they were missing like the ball carrying of Aldrit, who was in the stands enjoying watching it along with everyone else. And they lacked real oomph. And a question that I've asked someone recently is, what's happened to Pasolo Tuolangi? Because
Just come back from injuries, my understanding.
back from injury, because
Long-term injuries, but he's come back and he actually. I've only seen a few clips knocking around here and there.
I saw
Looking
him
a bit
getting
leaner, looking a bit meaner, looking like he's
some
potentially
comparisons
ready
to some other Tuolangis in the lineage I've seen.
Well, put it this way, he's looking more and more like his father.
That's no bad thing. That's no bad thing at
No.
all. Because I just feel like that sort of player is exactly what France missed, I think. In terms of, normally when you go a man ahead, 15 versus 14, you then try and put your foot on their throat, wherein in this game, South Africa were able to put their foot on France's throat despite being a man down. And I think it's just that lack of oomph, that lack of physicality, and heads dropped. And that's that. That's that, Rory. All credit to South Africa, really.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, fair play to South Africa. You got to hold your hands up and just say, look, they are at the moment. It's South Africa and then the rest of us.
Yeah, there's a reason they're number one and have been number one in the world for a very long time. And I'm sure South African fans would love to remind us of that, as is your right to do so, let's face it. Any other pointers on this fixture in specific, Rory?
Look, I think for my money, this is just a sign of the coaching masterclass that's going on in South Africa, and actually the galvanising of their systems that are creating these squads, because the quality across 1 to 23 is frightening. It is frightening how good the players are there. When you've got the likes of RG Sneeman and Andreas de Hazen to come off the bench.
Yeah, and they're starters in any other nation, let's face it.
I mean, they're starters, they're captains. It is frightening. So for the rest of the world has just got to try and catch up at this point.
Yeah. And there I was thinking France were the beacon of hope for the Northern Hemisphere, who, let's face it, Northern Hemisphere hasn't done itself wonders this weekend. Moving on from that particular fixture, let's talk about another colossal battle of North versus South. Our friends north of Adrian's Wall, Scotland, up against New Zealand with a real wind in their sails. The Scots from the south, exactly, New Zealand. Winds in their sail after their massive victory against USA. Their Prem players available for selection. Lots of enthusiasm about this being their greatest ever chance to right some wrongs and get that victory against New Zealand that's evaded them for so long. The build-up was massive, and they went and lost it, Rory. How would you describe this game?
I mean, actually very exciting. New Zealand racing to a 17-0 lead at half-time.
Yeah.
Despite having had a yellow card for, is it Leroy Carter on the wing?
Yes. Well done, Rory. I believe that is the correct
I
name.
remember first names. I'm up to 3 or 4 first names I remember now.
That's good.
So Cam
your
Roygard.
name is Rory.
Oh, yeah, I remember. That's it. Cam Roygard getting the early score. Bowden Barrett adding a penalty later on in the half, and then Will Jordan scoring on the stroke half time in a bit of a hammer blow for the Scots. For my money, Scotland are never going to get a better opportunity than this. New Zealand were down to 14 for half an hour, and despite all of that, the aggregate scoreline across that half an hour was 7-7.
That's not good.
It's not great from their perspective. It's difficult to put exactly as to why that is, other than Scotland just lack a bit of a.
Is there a theme occurring, Rory?
Yeah, they were just out muscled, I think, for my money, which is a hard one to solve because I can't really see. They're missing the Ferguson, Xander Ferguson, and outside of that, I can't see an obvious fix there for Scotland to reach that next level, short of finding some physical monsters. We know the likes of Ruben Logan are coming through the system.
Yeah.
And may be able to add something to that. But New Zealand just had that bit more.
Yeah.
But Scotland put them under real pressure. What we can't forget is that Scotland got back to 17-0.
Yeah.
From being 17-0 down.
That's some fight back.
It's a huge fight back, and it was exciting in the pub. People were getting very excited by this, and I think for a moment we thought they'd do it. They looked the better side. They had more opportunities. They just weren't able to finish it. They weren't ruthless enough.
Yeah.
And that just seems to be what they're lacking. It's just that extra bit of ruthlessness you need at the real top end of international rugby. Because the likes of Darcy Graham were brilliant, Carl Steyn very good, Tuipulotu and Hutchinson I thought looked really good in the centres.
Go on, Hutch.
Yeah, Finn Russell, Blair Kinghorn, probably two of the more disappointing backs this week. Actually,
yeah,
all things considered, didn't quite bring their quality to the fore. Another of your boys, Miller Mills, I thought was really impressive when he came on, shored up the scrum.
Yeah, well,
an underrated player.
What do you expect?
Ewan Ashman was good, and then George Turner when he came on was good. Gooman, was excellent particularly with the ball in hand. Jack Dempsey made real inroads, but it's just that bit from being almost there to being better than the team they're up against. It's just something missing there.
You listed a lot of players there, and your description for most of them was they were good, and that's great. But there wasn't enough of them who were excellent. Is that the difference maker? Because obviously New Zealand, they have a number of players who often have excellent as their standard, and maybe that's the difference.
Well, look, let me read you off everyone who scored points for New Zealand in this game.
Okay.
Cam Roygard.
Excellent.
Will Jordan.
Excellent.
Damien McKenzie. Bowden Barrett.
Good, excellent.
Now, regardless of how well or not well they performed in this game, that's a different debate. What those players all have is that ineffable bit of stardust that elevates test teams to higher levels. Scotland, Finn Russell, Sione Tuipulotu and Blair Kinghorn should be the players that do that for them.
Yeah.
But they're just not at this point in time. I don't know what it is, but they're not doing that. Not to say they all played badly, but what they're not doing is taking the game by the scruff of the neck and winning it for Scotland.
No, they're not being the difference makers that they have the ability to be. At their best.
It can't just be spoiling England's Six Nations Championships that gets you to that level of performance. Because let's be honest, Scotland have been better than England for the last few years because they're able to raise their game to levels that beat England consistently. But they can't do it against Ireland. They've not really done it against France. They're not doing it against New Zealand. They didn't do it against South Africa last year.
Yeah.
It's
one-trick pony.
How do they raise their game to that level consistently to beat those teams all the time?
Yeah. That is the secret. And if I was in the head offices of the SRU, I would be looking at Gregor Townsend and wondering, yes, you've got on your CV your excellent record against England. What are you doing about everyone else? Because that does seem to be the difference. And saying all this, fully respect the fact that Scotland did turn this into a close game in the end.
Oh, yeah. They were so in the fight here.
Yeah.
So in the fight. But it's being in the fight and it's winning the fight, isn't it? That's the difference.
And will they get a better opportunity than this in the next?
It's hard to think
years?
what, unless what they really need is to be playing New Zealand every year.
That'd be nice. Yeah, that'll help.
Yeah, I mean, someone made the point. It took Argentina 9 years of being in the Rugby Championship to beat New Zealand, and now they nick a result off them more years than they don't.
Yeah.
Scotland, for whatever reason, aren't seeing that raise in performance level from the Six Nations every year. They need to play someone like New Zealand year in, year out.
Not that I want to open this can of worms too much right now, Rory, but are we seeing... There's two angles here, actually. But the Northern Hemisphere versus Southern Hemisphere, which is an argument that I detest because I just really don't see the point of arguing about what side of the equator you are. But obviously, the Southern Hemisphere sides are coming quite freshly off the back of the Rugby Championship, so they're perhaps more battle-hardened when it comes to these autumn internationals.
Yeah.
But also, just is there a quality difference between the North and the South, as much as I hate for the equator to be a deciding factor in the quality of a player? Is there actually a difference between the two in terms of quality?
It's hard. It's a really hard one to answer because, by a stretch, the best international side is South Africa. Are their club sides consistently ripping up trees in Europe and in the URC? No. But are all their players there? No. They're everywhere. So what is it that when they get together for South Africa, they raise themselves to a level unlike any other team? Some of it's going to be the Razzie Erasmus factor. Maybe it's a coaching issue. Maybe it's they've produced better coaches. I know there's an argument for that, right?
Yeah. And the South African school system's probably the best for producing young talent, maybe.
Good argument for it. But maybe there's something about the way South Africans feel about playing for South Africa compared to other nations playing for their countries that is different and motivates them at different levels. That could be it. They have the best players in terms of results at international level. They won the last 2 World Cups. Are they absolutely 100% the best players again versus every Northern Hemisphere option? I don't think that's necessarily true, but they do produce better performances. New Zealand, difficult to say because there's still lots of questions about New Zealand, but they do keep beating Northern Hemisphere sides. So
they do indeed. Yet we sit here and keep saying it's unconvincing, which is, I'm hoping, doesn't carry on to next week. Perhaps to help strengthen the argument, Rory, the next fixture that we'll talk about, our friends over in Wales getting their first outing in the autumn internationals against Argentina of the Southern Hemisphere again.
Yeah.
And
Green
guess
shoots.
what? Guess what, listener? Argentina win. Spoiler alert.
Yeah, it's Argentina's record win against Wales, 52-28.
You said green shoots.
Strange game.
Green shoots.
I thought at times with the ball in hand, Wales looked the best they've looked for some time.
Okay, I think that's fair. I think going forward, there was definitely a bit more to them than there has been in recent times.
The Thomas Williams try was genuinely excellent.
Genuinely very, very good. And it was good to see Thomas Williams looking like he was enjoying playing rugby again, because I don't think he's been enjoying himself at Kingsholm recently.
Thank you. But bastard. But at the same time, it did look at points quite easy for Argentina to shred them open.
Yes, that was going to be my next point. Is I'm not sure whether the defence has changed a great deal because Argentina were able to slither on through with quite some ease. And I know Argentina are good, but it didn't look like it took a lot to figure it out.
No, it didn't. And lots of different tries. A quick word for the Mateo Carreras try from Matera's break and left-footed kick down the touchline, which amazing. I just loved.
Such a try.
Wembana Matera is a world-class player.
Yeah.
Phenomenal.
He's so good.
Crema, the man could put
Monster.
dents in battles. He is just enormous.
But you said his name, Mateo Carreras. I've forgotten how good he was because obviously he'd left our shores. He was kind of a stalwart up at Newcastle, was Falcons. I've forgotten how good he was. I want him back. I want him back, Rory.
Yeah. I want to see more Argentinians back in the league, particularly Argentinian backs, because who was it who was down at Exeter for a little while? In Paris.
Cordero.
Yes, Santiago Cordero. I want buzzy, fast Argentinian wingers just carving up. Yeah, they're just exciting. I think Cruz, the 9, Benitez Cruz, is
he's with us.
Really, really buzzy. Really liking Delgui.
Yeah, he looks dangerous.
And then just factor in, Chocobares. Malia was on the bench. You got Santiago Carreras at 15.
It's good to see him enjoying his rugby again. So I feel like he maybe not have enjoyed his rugby quite as much when he was at Kingsholm.
Loving this running joke, David. Thank you.
We're an honest pod. We're an honest pod.
Yeah, we're an honest pod. Side note, seen John Mitchell's in helping out the Gloucester staff at the moment.
I did see you shared that with me. That's an interesting one.
Not getting paid. I think we're soft launching a change of coach, and I'd be happy with that as a change of coach, frankly.
Yeah, that's
Outside of that, I was really impressed by Priscentelli. The
10. I didn't know much about him before this game. Really enjoyed watching him play.
In the summer, was it Albanos?
Yes, it was Albanos.
Yeah, when I first watched him, I thought, he's
really good as well.
Solid.
Yeah.
So the fact that Argentina have real options in these areas is a good sign for them. But the rugby they play at times is scintillating. And then just factor in the likes of Delgado, the tight head, is just shoulders like boulders. Like his try, he didn't so much score a try as he just proved the laws of physics. Heavy thing falls to ground hard.
Yeah. Some things are inevitable, and turns out Pedro Delgado finding gravity is one of the most convincing arguments for gravity that I've seen for some time.
Yeah, really, really obvious. Maiko Vivas, nice to see him enjoying his rugby again because he wasn't really enjoying it over at Kingsholm.
Oh, you got there.
Got there just before he looked really good, I thought.
Why did you let him go? He looked really good.
I honestly, no one knows what the story is, though. Just disappeared. I don't know if there was a falling out or what. Just sort of went. I'd really love him back because we've been real short of loose ends. But I'm sure he's enjoying his rugby elsewhere. But yeah, Argentina are just good, aren't they? That's the thing.
Yeah.
It's no longer like the plucky Argentinian side or this Argentinian side to come out of nowhere. Argentina are just good. They're just a really good side that you have to work really hard to beat.
Yeah,
they got threats all over the pitch. I mean, they probably their own worst enemies at times. Is it the Dewi Lake? Yeah, Dewi Lake's try that starts with the very nonchalant Gonzalez knock on in the 22 from the 4. Jack Morgan's try coming from a tap and go. They're a bit loose at times still. Maybe it's a bit of a mentality issue, but ball in hand. Good God, they're good.
So good. I suppose on Wales, Jack Morgan's injury.
Not good news. Dislocated shoulder probably out for 2 or 3 months. Really, really bad for them.
He might be on tight timescales for Six Nations. Hopefully not, but he's such a talisman. Like you watch, like if you just ever watch Wales, despite all their results and actually pretty lackluster performances, Jack Morgan always puts in an 8 or a 9 out of 10 performance in, and he was doing the same here. He's
a phenom, and what I like about Jack Morgan is he's not someone who's come through the conventional way. He was playing basically local rugby. Never got the selections. Just kept working at it, and eventually got himself up into the Ospreys team and made his breakthrough for Wales. But he was working on. He had a day job like building sites, working and then sort of semi-pro in the Super Rugby Cymru. But
it's crazy to think a talent like that could have slipped through the net.
I mean, whoever's not selecting him in the lower division or lower age groups should be sacked immediately. I mean, for Wales, at times they played some quite good stuff. They're quite quite attractive with the ball in hand. Some good stuff there, but just lacking oomph and lacking power, lacking ability. It's a theme, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think there is a theme of, at the moment, Northern Hemisphere sides, or the home nation sides in particular. I think they've all suffered from lacking real ball carrying power.
Yeah.
There just seems to be a bit of a dearth of it at the moment. I think they can all. They're all guilty of it, really. I don't think England have got, particularly now. Tom Willis has effectively made himself unavailable.
He brings oomph.
Yeah, he's oomph to the max. But they're outside of that. Do they have a real game-breaking ball carrier? I mean, is it any wonder that Hoskins Satutu's being mooted again?
Yeah, I've seen his name being linked with
linked to Saracens, linked to Newcastle, linked to Gloucester,
and linked already with a 150,000 DPS contract. So interesting.
Just there's obviously a concern about real ball carrying power. Wales, Wainwright carries a lot of this on his shoulders. Dewi Lake at his best is a really good ball carrier. Reece Carre, very effective in the Prem. Did he quite manage to translate at the weekend? A couple of moments, but not quite. Massively.
No. I thought Nicky Smith looked good when he came on, though.
Yeah, a really good player, Nicky Smith, and punches well above his weight. But is he doing the same job as, say, Angus Bell? No. It's those undeniable ball carriers that seem to be what's really lacking at the moment. And it's something they're going to have to solve, because that's the thing that they're suffering with, I think. Wales playing a lot in front of the defensive line, not really making dents, and then ball goes loose, and Argentina just flood up the field.
Yeah. Maybe Lewis Rees-Sammett's the answer, Rory. He's bulked up. Does he bring oomph?
Possibly. But I don't think Wales are in a position at the moment where they're able to get the most out of him. I think the problem with Lewis Rees-Sammet is, with his pace and his height, you want him to stay out on the wings for a kick pass, or for the when there's a bit of space there. But his size, you want him playing that kind of almost Feo Boso roll around the rucks and just bringing that power into it. Yeah. I don't think that they've worked out how to get the most out of him at the moment.
Well, if we were paid the salary of Steve Tandy, we'd figure that out. But unfortunately, once again, we're not getting paid. No one's paying us. So we can't solve that problem for you, Steve. Sorry. It's the Running Steve theme. We're an honest pod. We're an honest pod here.
Like I said.
Yeah. I'm not going to dig in on Wales because I saw
some improvements.
There was improvements.
I saw some improvements.
There was improvements.
But defensively, they were a bit all over the place.
They were.
And there is still a quality gap.
I also think the Ben Thomas kick just stupid. So he's very lucky boy, because I think on another day that was a straight red and several weeks banned if the Argentinian player's head was an inch to the right. I think it was Matera.
It was, yeah.
Stupid. So less of that, please, Mr. Thomas. And yeah, probably not. Let's not dwell on that too much.
I think so, enough green shoots there for some Welsh fans to feel a twinge of optimism. But
perhaps
from what I could hear on the telly listening to it and from reports, there feels like the apathy is really set in with Welsh fans. So I hope they get some good news soon, because it's not sounding great at the moment.
It's not, and the Jack Morgan injury will not help.
No. Shall we run through just the last couple of results very quickly?
Yes, because in positive news, in the battle of the Northern Hemisphere versus Southern Hemisphere, Italy pulled off one hell of a victory against Australia, Rory.
Yeah, not their first victory. They did beat them a few years ago.
Who called it? Just before we get started, who said this was going to be the upset that Italy get in our predictions last weekend, Rory?
Me.
Oh,
no, it was you.
Me.
Okay, fine. Well done.
Thank you.
We're all really proud of you, David.
Thank you.
No, look, just really good from Italy from what I saw. I think Australia, their pack is still really powerful. They actually just weren't really able to capitalise on power, and their discipline was poor, as evidenced by having given away 4 penalty scores. But actually, Italy's try scoring opportunities all seem to come from Australia giving away penalties, giving away field position. So it seems like a discipline issue from their point of view. But for Italy, just really, really positive news for them. Just the fact that they're in the mix of these kind of games. Now they've got a much tougher fixture coming this week. But getting consistent results against these types of teams that are in and around their ranking is going to breed confidence for that group.
Yeah.
And I could see more than just the one upset coming from Italy in a few years. This could be, a consistent problem fixture for teams, because that Italy team has got ballers now.
It does. And it's a young team. And we've spoken in the past about how the Italian machine is working. And we didn't talk about the other weekend, but we saw that there was a fixture where the Italian 18s smashed the Ireland under 18s.
Yeah, absolutely hammered them. Yeah. Just some of the names here. You got Ross Vincent, still very young. Lewis Liner feels like he's been around a long time, but he's still pretty young. Menoncello's not very old. Capozzo's probably just coming to his peak years. Zamboni's barely out of the under 20s. There's some real talent there, and we know the likes of Todaro are coming through. Yeah. So as long as that conveyor belt keeps going, I think we'll see more results like that from them.
What we're saying is Italy are basically the yin to the Welsh rugby yang at the moment. Yes. They're two nations in two very different trajectories, unfortunately. And the other game, I'll put my hands up, didn't pay much attention to this game, mainly because we were busy elsewhere in Bath. But Ireland against Japan, I know it was close for quite a long time, but then Ireland pulled away.
17-10 at half-time.
Yeah.
So, I think probably from Eddie's perspective, that will be positive in and of itself. From Ireland's perspective, they've scored another 24 points in the second half and pulled away from what isn't mooted to be a vintage Japanese team at the moment. But some green shoots for Japan in the sense of having made Ireland work for it for some period of time. They'll hope to carry on that trajectory, but it remains to be seen if they've got genuine possibility of building a team as strong as 2019 before the World Cup.
Yeah. Well, perhaps on that, we should move into the prediction space, because they have a very important game against a nation that we've spoken about quite recently that could really dictate the World Cup pools. But we'll get onto that. We'll start off in order of the kickoff times with this week's predictions for week 3. Italy versus South Africa.
Well, look, a really good result for Italy this weekend, but this is a different test entirely. Mm-hmm. Gut feel is South Africa probably win this by 20 points.
Yeah, can't see any other way around it. Italy, as good as you are, South Africa are a different gravy. Then a tasty game at the Allianz Stadium in Twickenham. England versus New Zealand. That unconvincing New Zealand side that keeps on winning.
Yeah. New Zealand won the series 3-0 last year across two in New Zealand, one in Twickenham. No, I think we're going to win it. I think we'll win by 5.
I'm going to be uncontroversial. I'm going to be uncontroversial. I'm going to agree with you. Maybe boost it to 3 points, but I think England nick it. And I'm going to be honest, I don't think it's going to be a game for the ages. I have a feeling this is going to be an arm wrestle, lots of kicking, and one for the purist maybe. But if England win, I don't care. I look forward to talking about it next week though. The game I was just hinting towards, Wales versus Japan. A lot riding on this game.
Wales will be really have targeted this one, obviously. I think they will get a victory in this one. I think Wales will win this by 5 to 10 points.
I hope you're right. I fear for what happens with Jack Morgan gone, because they've lost their talisman. But I'm going to back the other players to step up in his absence, and I'm going to agree with you that Wales get a much, much, much needed win here. Perhaps because Eddie Jones has come with quite an experimental squad. Unless he's got something rolled up his sleeve here that we've not spotted, I do think Wales will have enough here. Then we're moving over to Bordeaux for France versus Fiji. Where do you think this lands, Rory?
Well, I mean, it could be a really entertaining game.
Well, it should be.
Should be very entertaining. And we know Fiji are no mugs, and we know France are not 100% convinced at the moment, but gut feel says France win this one by 15 points, probably.
Yeah, I think we see a French reaction to the disappointment against South Africa, and I think they will come to prove a point that they're second in the world for a reason, and they'll want to put Fiji to the sword. Let's see if they bring the oomph. But we'll see. We'll see how that one goes. I agree. I think France will win that one. Ireland versus Australia. Interesting one, this. Australia coming off the defeat to Italy. Ireland not setting the world alight in this autumn period so far.
This could be the weekend's upset. I think Ireland are not flying at the moment. Obviously had a bit of a tune-up with Japan, poor against New Zealand in Chicago. I think Australia are going to be desperate to get a win out of this series. And will be very, very disappointed off the first two show-ins.
Yeah.
If they're going to show up, they're going to show up in this one. I think Australia sneak this by under 5 points.
Yeah. If you don't think Joe Schmidt's been targeting this game,
you ain't concentrating.
You ain't concentrating because this is a game he's focused on. And I agree. I just not seeing it with Ireland this autumn. Something just doesn't quite feel like it's working at the moment. I can't put my finger on it entirely. I know they just beat Japan by 41 points to 10, but look at the score up until halftime. I think Australia will really stick it to them, and I think it'll be an Australia win as well. So I'm agreeing with you again, Rory. Oh, what's going on? Scotland versus Argentina on Sunday.
I think, unfortunately, the misery doubles down in Scotland. And I think Argentina come away with the win here.
Okay.
I really like this Argentina side. I'd like Scotland to have some positivity off the back of this series, but unfortunately, these things often come in multiples, and I think Scotland will come unstuck in this fixture, and Argentina will win this by 10 points.
Okay. Well, I'm going to say I'm backing Scotland, and it's only because I don't want to have the exact same predictions as you in all of the games, and I'm willing to be wrong. Because we're an honest pod. We're an honest pod.
We're just honest.
We're honest people with an honest pod. So yeah, Roy, let's see how those predictions fare next weekend. I'm looking forward to yet another lovely weekend of rugby, albeit I will not be in multiple establishments in Bath enjoying a Guinness or two, unfortunately, Rory. But yeah, I think
I will be in multiple establishments in London.
Well, there we go. I look forward to
We go again.
Unfortunately, I won't be joining you this time, but behave yourself, have a lovely time, and remember, when you're playing the rugby name game, to drink while you think.
Absolutely.
It's very important. Rules are rules. And just for the listener's sake, I was very impressed at Rory's ability to remember names, considering his track record with them.
I get cleverer with Guinness.
That makes a lot of sense because you were very clever and there was a lot of Guinness. I'm going to end the podcast slightly differently this weekend, Rory. We'll still do your final thought, but we're going to end in homage to Shawnee, the author to the Ruxmalls and Overballs song. Hopefully he's listening to this points to the episode. We'll end with the Ruxmalls and Overballs song, but I'll invite you for your final thoughts and final goodbyes to the listener before we close with the song.
Honesty is the best policy.
That's been Ruxmalls Overballs. We'll be back again next week and enjoy the song.
Ruxmalls and oval balls, union their domain. Lots of rugby knowledge, but their banter is mundane. Rory answers questions, David has his stats. Two former front row voices, the fan zone colon flats. The DPR bar, welcome more jouet. Play it wide, out the back, alley, alley. Alley, alley. R-M-O-O, R-M-O-B. R-M-O-O.
Goodbye.
Ta-da.